Okay, you're good.
Thank you. Good evening. It is 7 o'clock and welcome to the 6/1/21 Planning Board meeting for the Village of New Paltz. We are streamed live on YouTube. We have quite an agenda this evening so that we're going to be going through. So I'm asking everyone to please mute if you are not part of the direct conversation, so that we can everyone can hear what we're doing. So the very first thing that we're going to do is approach the administrative business, and want to make this pre-meeting announcement here. There will be no general public comment this evening. Presently, public comments are received via YouTube, and the medium and platform do not allow for efficient capturing and relaying of more than a few comments during the meeting. So we are changing the format for receiving general public comments to accommodate the anticipated inflow of numerous public comments regarding several of the higher profile projects that are pending before the planning board. And so we are going to ask Alana to brief us on the procedure that will be used, and then we will get on to the other aspects of our administrative business. Alana, if you would go right ahead, please.
Hello. So this will be fairly simple. So for the next meeting agenda, so that's June 15th, in addition to the YouTube link, the Zoom link, along with the dial-in number and the passcode and the meeting ID will also be available on the agenda. So the public will be able to call into the meeting and participate. I would always advise that people submit their comments in writing prior to the meeting or even after, because I think board members tend to absorb the comments better if they can read them as well as hear them. And how that's going to work is I'm going to enable the waiting room on these Zoom meetings. There will be a little dialog box for the waiting room that says if you're here for public comment, to just provide your name and address in the little chat box, and I will write that name down in a list. And when the chair opens the public comment portion, I'll say your name, and you'll have a couple minutes to read your comment. I don't know if John wants me to say that we're going to have like a 15-minute public comment portion. I don't know if we settle on how long we want that portion to be. I was seeing 10 to 15 minutes. It'll be first come, first serve. So get in here early and give your name. If you don't get in during that public comment portion, you will get in on the next one. And then obviously when the official public hearings are open for this project, I would imagine those will be longer than just the general public comment portion, which is supposed to be for any project that's before the planning board, regardless of whether or not is an official public hearing. So that should be how it's going to work going forward while these meetings are still remote. And anyone can email me with a question. My email address is on the Village of New Paltz planning board page.
Thank you, Alana. I would like to invite all of any individual that wants to comment regarding these applications to please email that in. That is the preferable method, because each of these comments that you email in will be given to all of the planning board members. They will have access to it. They will be sent those directly, and they will get the opportunity to read them prior to the meeting. Again, Alana did say, and I want to reiterate, that it will be a 15-minute public comment time period. First come, first serve. We're going to ask that you reserve your comments to 2 minutes so that it gives ample time for other people to make comments. This is indeed, once again, to reemphasize the point that Alana made, this is not the public hearing, but these are general comments that could be made regarding any application, not specific applications for the public hearing, but any application that's before the board, and any comments that you might have regarding the application, so that we can all get an opportunity to express opinions. The opinions are important, and we want to make sure that everybody is heard. For board members, I would suggest that going forward that we get in early so that we have the opportunity to all be present before it begins. So that's the end of that. There is a discussion that is going on among board members as part of the administrative business that we would like to explore changing the meeting time to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, to accommodate the anticipated lengthy board meetings that we may have going forward. So please send your comments to Alana regarding that, and we will discuss that. I know that some people have already said that they would enjoy having it at 6 o'clock and possibly ending earlier. Some people have said that 6 o'clock may be a bit difficult given their work schedules to attend. But please, if you would, send those comments to Alana so that we can discuss that moving forward.
John?
Yes, sir.
If this is a bad time, let me know, but I was going to interrupt before you got to the meeting proper, just to let you and the other planning board members know that our firm has a summer associate this summer who's going to be helping me from time to time on some of the planning board matters. So I wanted to introduce all of you to her. It's Ashley Ward Willis, who's in one of the boxes, who just waved. So I just wanted to introduce Ashley to all of you.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, Ashley. Good luck on hanging on to this. It's
Thank
like
you.
drinking out of a fire hydrant. I don't know whether to nip around or just jump right in, but welcome. So with that in mind, what we want to look at now is the approval of the minutes of the May 18th, 2021 meeting. If everyone had an opportunity to look at those, as Alana does get those out the night, actually the night of or the day following the meeting. Did anyone have any comments or anything that they felt should be edited or changed? Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
So motion.
Second, please.
I second.
And with the board members, if you would all unmute, all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
all opposed? So the minutes from the May 18th meeting have been approved. So next we want to look at Village Board, UCPB and EPB updates. I know that Don will not be with us. He emailed me to let me know that he is going to be celebrating his 30th wedding anniversary tonight. Congratulations to you, Don. Is Will here? Does he have, I didn't see him.
I don't see him.
Okay. All right. With that in mind, we'll move on. The local law reviews of the different laws that were discussed earlier. Rick, would you like to lead us through just a brief discussion about those laws and what we may want to do?
Well, I don't have a summary of each of the laws that were forwarded, but it's required by the code, as it is with most other codes, that whenever the Board of Trustees wants to pass a law that deals with zoning and planning, that they are required to refer it to the planning board for your comments and report back to the Board of Trustees, usually prior to their public hearing, so that they can take those comments into consideration. There were 3, I believe, that were forwarded. I don't think that it's expected that you're going to be discussing them tonight, but I think John will be putting them on future agenda after he finds out when the planning Board of Trustees needs the report and recommendation back.
Very good. So I'm going to get in touch with Will and Lana, if you would also help me out here regarding the 3 laws that are proposed. And we're going to see when the village board wants to discuss those. And we're going to have to make some time then to get those out, those proposals out to each of the members of the board. Please be prepared to discuss that at our next meeting so that we can have a brief discussion and then provide our input to the Board of Trustees so that they will know what our beliefs are on those.
Hey,
So,
John.
moving
John,
forward
it's
from that-
Dennis.
I'm sorry?
John, it's Dennis. I've reviewed these going way back when Alana first made it available. How you go, I think they're very important. And how you go about having the planning board members discuss them so that we make our recommendations.
What I'd like to do as part of the administrative business next meeting is for us to take a period of time to go through each of those, try to get an understanding and try to get a sense of the board's opinion on those. And then that will be passed along through Will to the Board of Trustees, and they'll take that in regard before they pass those laws, I believe. But that way that we will at least have our opinions known well by the board.
Well, with your, strong background in zoning, in particular, where they're looking to change the zoning for a number of properties, like 83 South Chestnut, and then Cooper Street, over there by Bonnecue View. Do you think it might be a good idea if prior to the meeting we could discuss these? Because I think it's very important, as opposed to just discussing an administrative business.
Well, that's a good point. Let's take a look at that. I know that it's difficult to get us all together for a meeting outside of our regularly scheduled meetings. So that's always a difficulty to do. But I think that it might be worth just, seeing if we can put together the time to do that.
Okay, maybe we don't have to have everybody, but given an example is tomorrow, we're going to have the site review of the New Paul's Gardens. I mean, I'm going to be there. I know Raquel is. I'm not sure who else, but maybe you would, after you think about it, maybe you would want to put together a group of 2 or 3 of us or 4 of us that could get together after we individually review this and then discuss it for an hour or a half hour, whatever it takes. And then we could in turn advise the other members of the board, based upon our investigations, what our thoughts are.
The only thing that you have to be concerned with is that if a quorum of you are getting together at any time to discuss this, it's considered to be the planning board's business, especially as a formal referral. And so it'd have to be advertised as a special meeting, and the public would have to have an opportunity to listen in on it.
All right.
Let's
Go
do
ahead.
this. Tomorrow, let's try to have a little bit of an email discussion on some of those and see if we can, if nothing else, find some common points, and if possible, maybe you and I, and then maybe Raquel and I, and Zach and I can, and Tom and I, or Rachel and I can have a coffee and field some opinions there and get some ideas. But again, we do have to be careful about how many of us meet in one given time so that we don't.
Or communicate or have a discussion electronically through email would be subject to the same rule.
Yeah. I think if we all could get together and go over it, in fact, we might even want to meet at one of the locations, particularly for the rezoning. And I think the recommendations are all very good, but I think we really should be very aware of what they want if we all go give our input and recommendations. I think it's a very important matter.
That's true. Alana, if you would please, can you send those out fresh to us so that we have those and everyone has them top of mind?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at them tomorrow, give a good read to them, and then if we can discuss a little bit by email, and then perhaps we can get some points together and have them for our next meeting when we can devote some time to it. And that way we will not be in danger of violating any sort of ethical standard and rule.
All right, thanks a lot, John.
Okay, so we're going to be moving now to our application review. We're going to start with PB 2104. This is 5 Platicle Avenue. The applicant is Brian Keenan. The zoning district is B2. We're going to have a bit of a brief summary by the attorney, and after that, we'll have some points and issues that we need to look at and discuss. And then finally, we'll end up with an action list for the applicant as we move forward. So Rick, would you like to give us a brief summary? Rick, you're on mute.
Somebody always has to make that mistake. I apologize. So the applicant is seeking to replace the existing retail space with a proposed bar and outdoor restaurant, sometimes known as an outdoor cafe, and within an existing mixed-use building. A portion of the existing parking driveway will be converted into outdoor seating, and the residential use and associated required parking will remain. Parking for the outdoor cafe and restaurant will primarily be provided in the adjacent municipal parking lot in accordance with the village code, and a privacy fence and landscaping in the outdoor seating area. Before we get into the specifics of it, there's has been some discussion and some uncertainty as to exactly which special use permits are required under the code. And my office and Corey had a discussion late this afternoon to try to work out exactly what they are, because the code at times is not crystal clear. There's a little bit of overlap with respect to some of these. But the end result, and Corey, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's your opinion, and we concur that there will need to be 3 special use permits for this application: a bar, a restaurant, and mixed use. The mixed use doesn't have any special permit conditions, but the special conditions concerning the bar is contained in 212-41B, and the restaurant in 212-41, T as in Tom. So those are the 3. At one point, it was considered that it might also need an outdoor cafe special use permit, but it's deemed that, in fact, really what is going to happen here, given the configuration desired, is that the outdoor cafe is going to be an accessory use to the restaurant, and therefore, under the code, it doesn't need to have its own special use permit. We have to, should type the action under seeker, which should be a type 2 action, given the size of the commercial. GML is required, GML 239-M referral is required, and a public hearing will eventually be required. And I think that's it. I've given the board my comments onto other issues that need to be addressed.
Okay. All right. So what the board will need to do, because there's not much we can do until some of these special use permits are addressed, is for tonight, we are going to type this action under seeker as a type 2 action. I need a motion, if I would, please.
So motioned.
And a second.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Do we need to declare ourselves as the lead agency on this, Rick?
No, if it's a type 2 action, there is no lead agency coordinated review that's being conducted.
Okay.
Seeker is at an end at this point.
So this is what we are going to be limited to doing for this evening. Mr. Keenan, I noticed that you're on board here. We're going to get you that action list that needs to be accomplished. I believe Alana can provide that to you by email. And she'll copy me on it and Rick as well, so that we'll know that you've got the action list that you need to take.
John, are you talking about the portions of my memo that refer to
Yes.
this application? I had sent those to Andy Willingham earlier today,
Okay, very good.
although there's some changes to that based upon my statement just now with respect to the special use permits. But other than that, all the comments still obtain.
Okay. So Andy, are you clear on what needs to be done?
Yes, I think, I mean, we submitted quite a bit of information on this submittal here. We have landscaping, building elevations. Kim Hoover, the project architect's also on here.
If I could just interrupt Andy for a second, it may be helpful. This is really the first meeting after the pre-application meeting. So it may be a good idea for the applicant to take us through the site plan to describe it so that the planning board and the public can understand it better.
Sure. Was that what you'd like me to do?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I can share my screen. Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. Okay, so everybody knows where this is. This was the old laundromat, and then it turned into retail. Most recently, this is behind McGillicuddy's, next to the town parking lot. The plan here is to convert the rear portion of the space, the retail space, into a restaurant slash bar. That's what we need to call it according to the code. And the plan is to be mostly an outdoor seating restaurant. This is an existing parking or asphalt area that's going to be converted to outdoor seating. We're planning a black metal fence all the way around. This is all landscaping you're looking at here. There's going to be brick pillars in between the fencing. There's going to be planters along the front where you come in, and new lighting. So we put quite a bit of work into trying to make this look nice. And this is, we submitted some renderings showing what it's going to look like, and also some building elevation views. So we put a lot of detail into this submittal. I know we're still ironing out some of this, which special use permits are required. But if the board has any comments on all the materials we've submitted at this time, we would welcome that.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? And would you back
Yes.
up? Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, I wasn't sure you could hear me. I walked over there today, and what concerns me about the site is that there's no sidewalk access. It's like you have to walk through what's essentially kind of a driveway into a parking lot, or a driveway into, where you park if you live in the building right next door. And I was thinking, just looking at the site, that a place where you could put a sidewalk that would take you through the site and around, and kind of, connect across the parking lot to another sort of walkway, would be to put it along the wall, so that, because on the other side, you couldn't have a sidewalk on the other side because you'd be behind the buildings, and there's, the dumpsters and everything over there. But if you did it along the wall, you'd have the wall between the sidewalk and your tables, but there'd be a way for people to walk through. And then, there's that really large tree to the right. It's a really nice tree. I didn't see I couldn't see from the rendering what kind of landscaping you were going to do there, but I saw that you left both trees, the one in the front and then the one on the side, and I think that's good.
Okay, we are proposing a stairway going up to the parking area. So if you there's a little spot in between the parking spaces that will get access right to the parking lot.
I don't,
Yeah.
I
And
don't
we
see
are,
rendering, but let me look at the map.
yeah, the rendering, it might not be on the rendering, but it is on the site plan.
Can you pull that up?
Yeah,
You have it on your,
So how would you get to the stair? I don't like, would it, you would still have to walk through the parking lot to get to the stair, correct?
yeah. So here, the parking lot actually goes right up to the wall here. So I don't know that there would be enough room to put a sidewalk in here, but what we're proposing is in this little spot right here, in between these parking spaces, to have a staircase going up to the entrance, which will be here. And this will all be blocked off. This is all fenced in, and there's no, you can't walk through the actual restaurant part. So this will be the access here.
Right. No, I could see why you wouldn't want them to walk through it, but I feel like if they could walk around it from the lot. Otherwise, I guess the stairs coming from the parking lot, you'd still have to walk through the parking lot to get to the stairs, right?
Right.
So, but you know how they have those tables, but like behind McGillicuddy's, they already have tables there. If the sidewalk were between the tables and the parking lot, you know, coming from there, but going kind of along the edge there. Do you know what I mean?
I think so.
Yeah, that way you wouldn't have to walk through the parking lot. You could come directly from the sidewalk onto another sidewalk, and then you go up the stairs or whatever and enter your place. It just, to me, it just seems kind of scary that you'd walk through the park. I mean, I think it's great that it's gonna, you know, look nicer. I mean, normally that's where people go to throw up after drinking, but now the bars are closed, and I don't know. I mean, it's not a very walkable area, you know?
Okay, we can look into that. And you're correct. We are keeping those 2 trees. They're gonna stay.
questions from any other member of the board? Okay. So that gives us an overview of the site plan, a bit of an explanation. So really the last thing that we have to do is to state that this is going to be referred to the county. Once we are going to refer this application to the Ulster County Planning Board. So you do have your list. You're going to get a punch list of the different issues that we have brought up. And Rick, do you want to go through those, like the zoning bulk table? Is that resolved?
It hasn't been resolved yet, but I think they're pretty clear unless Andy has a particular question about them. And I think the next revision will simply incorporate these.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward, the letter. I don't think we need to get into it.
Okay.
Andy, are you hoping for a July county referral for this? For their July meeting? Because their June one is obviously tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess that's the best we're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So I would just obviously, I like to send them the most complete application possible. So I don't know if we want to wait until you apply some of these changes to like the bulk tables and stuff before I send anything.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we just do a resubmittal in the next couple weeks, and then you can use that package.
Okay.
And also, Andy, either as a note on the plan or somehow also recognize Corey's interpretation that you'd need 3 special use permits, as we discussed before, and that the outdoor cafe use is going to be allowed as an accessory to the restaurant.
Okay. And as far as the bars need to be 500 feet from any school or church, and I don't believe we have that because the way that Waldorf school is at that dead end there. Do we need a variance? My first question, and if we do, should we start that process now?
Yes, you will need a variance, and I believe you can start that process now. There's also, I believe, you're within 500 feet of the synagogue as well, as the crow flies. So yeah, you will need a variance on that.
And you should, for purposes of that application, Andy, I would go ahead and do a measurement to the school as well as to the closest religious building, which I guess is a synagogue. So that way you can measure it, and that way you can get, if you're going to be granted a variance, it can be an accurate variance to make sure that it serves the purposes that you want. Do we, Alana, you probably know this more because I can't recall now. Do we actually make a referral to the ZBA? Legally, he doesn't need to have it because there's a pending site plan application. You're allowed to go ahead and ask for variances by direct application. But I think we normally make a referral to the ZBA.
Yeah, I feel like the consistency with that has been the planning board has just kind of asked for it at the meeting. Sometimes we've tried using like an official piece of paper, but that's not always the case. I feel like it's usually just in the minutes that it was referred to the zoning board.
Okay, why don't we do that then? And John, I think a motion would be in order to go ahead and make a referral to the ZBA for the necessary variances as far as adjacency to churches and religious buildings from a bar.
Okay.
Before you do that, can I jump in real quick? John, it's
Please.
Corey. I just want to make sure if you're gonna do that tonight, or if you're trying to figure that out tonight, I had a chance to speak with Andy earlier. Andy, did you get a chance to look at that 200-foot threshold requirement to the residential district? I couldn't tell if it was close or not. I don't know if you had a chance to try it.
Yeah, well, I think we're good on that. I think the nearest R is like across, it's like 500 feet. That's what I was measuring. So.
Okay, it's like it was. I think the closest one was the edge of Elting Avenue, was the beginning of R2, and then there was R3 the other direction. What you should do, or the planning board should ask you to do, is at least demonstrate that in a drawing, just like you're going to do with the other one.
Correct.
I just wanted to mention it in case you needed a variance for that too. They can just do it all at once. But if you're confident that you don't need it, I haven't double checked it. I will, but there's no need to do anything tonight.
Yeah, but it should be on the plans in any event.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll put it on there.
Okay. All right, so with that in mind, we are going then to get a motion to refer this application to the ZBA for the necessary variances regarding distance to religious and schools, as well as distance to the nearest residential district.
So motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the motion is passed. We are going to refer that to the ZBA. Alana, if you need me to sign anything or write anything, or if I just need to speak with Tony Saraceno on that, let me know.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate your time
Just one
here.
other thing, John, is that you may want to make a motion to actually refer to the Ulster County Planning Board. It's probably
yes.
better to have it in the record as a motion.
Okay, that's true. We just kind of referred it. All right, so then a motion to refer this application to the county planning board.
So motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we are referring this then to the county planning board. We're also referring this to the ZBA. Motions have passed on that. And thank you very much, gentlemen. I think that's the end of the business for your application tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good night.
So next, we are going to do a bit of the secret review on the New Paltz Apartments, PB 21 -AX Route 32 South and 21 Cross Street Road. So please mute if you would, please. Thank you. So we can get rid of that echo. I think we're familiar with this, but Rick, do you want to give us a bit of a summary? And then we can get started on our next steps that are involved with the application tonight. And
What I'll do is, this matters before the planning board to perform the seeker review for the entirety of this project, and that would include the annexation petition that is pending before the Village Board of Trustees and the Town Board. And it also involves, because there's a specific project involved with the annexation, the subdivision, site plan, special permit approvals that will be had with respect to the underlying project, if in fact the property is annexed into the village. And if there's any variances that will be needed, the seeker review will also be covering that aspect as well. So the board so far has typed the action as a type 1, and they assumed lead agency and made a positive declaration with respect to seeker. The board asked the applicant to submit a DEIS draft scope for the board's consideration, and that we are expecting this week sometime or early next week. And when that's received, the planning board will notify all the involved agencies and go ahead and start looking at the draft scope to try to finalize it. Tonight, in connection with that, we should probably discuss a couple of things. One is trying to decide upon which planning board consultants that the planning board wants to engage to help it with its review, including finalizing the DEIS scope. So we should decide upon the consultants, if at all possible, this evening. And also, what would probably be good, just from a timeline point of view, is to try and figure out when the planning board may want to have the public scoping session. So assuming that we're going to get the application this week, the applicant has been kind enough to waive the strict 60-day finalization deadline, but we should try to get the scope finalized in a reasonably efficient manner. So you may want to talk among yourselves about a potential guide date for that public scoping session, whether you want to make it at your July meeting or maybe August meeting. But it's something you should probably discuss now to give yourself and your consultants enough time and the involved agencies enough time to go ahead and advise you as lead agency on what things should be included in the draft scope. You'll have an applicant's version of that draft scope before you at the time that you can work off of, and this is how it's normally done. But the draft scope is actually this planning board's document, so you would modify it as you deem appropriate.
Thank you. Mike, when do you think you're going to have that draft scope? I know that we had talked about having it this week. Is that still on tap, or are we looking at a little farther out?
We're trying. I'll have to defer to Tom and to Jess probably, because I gave them some fairly extensive comments that they got today. So I think we're shooting for this week. I don't know if Tom and Jess are on. So if not, it would be the beginning of next week.
Yeah, I'm on, Mike. It's Jess from Pass Row, and that's accurate.
So let's say that it's going to hit our mailbox next week, just to give you guys a little bit of benefit of the doubt. So looking at that then, to do a public scoping and give our potential consultants time to review things. Alana, when is the first meeting and the second meeting in July?
First meeting in July would be July 6th. And then the second one would be July 20th.
Why don't we target July 20? And once we get the consultants in place, they'll be better able to tell us if that timeline is something they can meet, or if they need more time than that.
They won't need more time than that to help with the scope. That'll be fine for them.
Okay.
All of them are experienced in this, and they don't need more than this. They never get more than this to help with the draft scope.
Okay.
But one of the things that I wanted to have it discussed this evening is to make sure that the planning board members weren't away on vacation or things like that. This is going to be an important public scoping session where the public and the involved agencies weigh in to help you finalize that draft scope that will govern the remainder of the environmental impact statement process.
Well, this is my busy season, so I'll be here. Anybody else looking at vacation in or around the week of July 20th?
Nope.
Rachel's shaking her head no. Tom?
No, nothing planned.
Zach, how about you?
I should be here as well.
Rachel? You said okay. How about Raquel?
Dennis, will you be here?
Dennis from the planning board, will you be here?
John, sorry, I muted. Is it a Zoom or an in-person?
That's a very good question.
Why don't we make that decision a little bit later? Let's just see if we're going to have people on vacation first, and then we'll conquer whether it's going to be a live or a Zoom meeting.
Well, I mean, regardless, if you're on vacation, you could still do the Zoom. I'm not going to be on vacation, but that's pretty far away. A lot of things go on, but I'd say I would certainly try to make it. Again, if it's a Zoom, doesn't matter where you are.
Well, even without a change to the current governor's executive order concerning virtual meetings, the open meetings law allows planning board members to video conference in to a regular meeting. So even if that
Oh,
is
good.
you'd still be able to video conference in. We have to set up the necessary structure so that you can be seen and heard by the public who is attending in person. But I'm sure with Alana, we can go ahead and figure out how to do that fairly easily, whether it be through a laptop or through some sort of TV screen if the village is going to have one at that point. So people can participate, planning board members can participate via video conferencing, even without the current executive order in place.
Okay, Raquel, are you going to be on vacation that week? You're on mute.
No, she'll be here. She nodded.
Okay. All right. So July 20th looks like a day that we can do it. There you go. The thumbs up. All right. So so it looks like that's going to be the day that we'll plan for that. So next, let's
You might also want to ask the applicant if the applicant is fine with that date, because they need to be there as well, or their representatives.
That's good with me, Rick. This is Mike. It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. All right. With that in mind, let's begin a discussion of the consultants. You've all sent in information regarding consultants. Thank you very much. I think Alana was able to put most of them on a spreadsheet that she has. Is that correct, Lana?
Yes.
Okay. Can you share that spreadsheet with us?
I can't share my screen because I'm taking minutes.
Okay.
So if someone else has access to it. No.
I don't have access to the most recent one. Can you send that by email to Zach? Zach seems to be the one who can get that on screen for us.
Yeah, I can pull it up. It's in the drive, so I'll
Good.
just open it from there.
All
Is
right.
it quicker for me to email it to you, or is?
No, I think I have it.
Okay.
Actually, what
Oh,
folder
yeah.
is it in?
It should be in shared, and it's in the not public section of the website yet. So I can share the folder with you because it
okay.
also has all the materials that the consultants sent to, or the ones that did. I don't know if you want those too.
I see it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. So we're going to use Bernier Larios for our civil engineering. We have environmental, two environmental, oh, actually more than that, Chazen, Capital, Notorious, a lot of environmental ones there. Landscaping, we had a suggestion of Eileen Travis and Lawrence Paggy.
There's a lot on here, John, but there's only a few that have submitted anything in response to the request.
Okay.
These
Alana,
are,
who all has responded with materials?
Capital Environmental Consulting, FHI Studio, Hardesty in Hanover, Provident Design Engineering. So 4.
Do we want to reach out to the others and tell them we need material from them by end of week?
John, this is Tom. I reached out to all of the 7 environmental consultants requesting info, and in the week or so since I did that, only 2 have gotten back. So I can definitely follow up, but I got no response from the majority.
Okay, so Capital was one for environmental.
Yeah, so Capital got back first with materials, and then FHI Studio also got back. And Capital's located in Kingston. Sorry, I didn't include any of the addresses, but they're based in Kingston, and FHI has offices in New York City, Hartford, and South Jersey.
Okay. Can we, well, I don't know if we can do it live with that. I think it would probably be a good idea to highlight those that have responded so we can know who's responded pretty easily here. Is that possible? Can we do that now, or we go?
well, there's 2 traffic and 2 environmental that have responded.
2 traffics were
PDE and Hardesty in Hanover, I believe. And actually, Hardesty in Hanover says that they do both traffic and environmental. So I guess we have 3 environmental.
Yeah, when I went to the websites for most of these people cover a range of issues.
okay.
Alana, you didn't get anything back from Collins?
I don't think so.
I can call Phil Greeley tomorrow. If they should have responded.
Well, they realize that if there's a consultant who is representing applicants, they may not want to now represent the planning board because it would preclude them from representing applicants before the board, even if it's on a different project.
Yes, and I went through that with Phil, and he researched that and came back and said, no, they were not working with any of the applicants.
On this project or on any project?
Well, I'm sure they're working on different projects, but they weren't working with anyone on this particular project.
Yeah, I think Phil responded to the email and said, they would be interested, but I don't think he sent materials or anything like that. I thought I remembered an email from him saying it sounded interesting, but I don't think he sent anything.
But to follow up, Dennis, if they are going to represent the planning board on any one matter,
Right,
precluded from representing applicants on any matter before the planning board.
okay.
I just wanted to say that I noticed that Hudsonia was on the list. And I just did 2 trainings with Hudsonia. And I feel like since they're teaching people how to delineate wetlands, and they're close by, that would be my vote for the environmental.
Yeah, Rachel, I actually, I found them based on your email. And I did reach out to them, but I haven't heard anything back.
Okay, so we really have 3 for the environmental that have responded: Capital, FHI, and Hardesty. And then traffic, we have Hardesty in it as well, Collins and PDE. So those are the 3. Then we have not reached out to, and I will need to reach out to Eileen Travis on landscaping.
I also have one more archaeological consultant that I found and was recommended, and reached out to them yesterday. So I'll send you the information to add to it, Alana.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, because I'd like to sort of wrap this up. So here's what we're going to do, or here's what I propose we do, is that we clean up this list for, and Alana, if you would please, for the environmental. We have Capital, FHI, and Hardesty, and let's remove the others that have not responded. Then for traffic, PDE, Hardesty, and Collins. Landscaping, Eileen Travis, unless we have any others that may be interested, and then Harkin for archaeology. And I'm sorry, Zach, who else did you have for archaeology?
The name is Tracker Archaeology, Monroe.
Tracker?
Yes.
Would you be able to reach out to them tomorrow? Because I would like to get all the information collected by that time, because we've narrowed it down now to 3 on the environmental, 3 on the traffic, and then 2 on the archaeology. And if we can get this cleared up and then get information back, then I'd kind of like to speak with them, interview them, see what they can do, and then try to get an estimate on what it would be, what the cost it would be to do this, and make a decision here pretty quickly, because we want to give them the opportunity to move forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't have any of the submissions yet for the archaeologists. And Dennis, are you going to reach out to Phil Grilly with respect to Colliers?
Yes, I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I also have one from the city. I'm just trying to find out if she's willing to come up here.
Okay.
I've worked with her many years before.
Okay, because we want to get all the information, close it by Friday. No further. Any information comes in after Friday, then we need to just eliminate them, because it'll only complicate matters. And
That's fine.
Okay, and that will get us into a better spot. And then at close of business on Friday, Alana, if you can send me a list of those that have responded, we'll send out the information to everyone on the responses. And I would like by Tuesday of the following week to have your comments on those, and then we will invite them for interviewing. And I don't know, Rick, should we interview them at the meeting, or should that be something that we would do offline?
You are, it's up to you how you want to do it. You certainly are permitted to go ahead and interview them in executive session during a meeting, or you could do it in the open session part.
Okay, then why don't we set it for an executive session of our next meeting that after we get the information, I will invite them to make a brief presentation, giving everybody a limited amount of time. Because otherwise we could find, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If everybody had 5 minutes to do their presentation, that would take up 45 minutes. That would take up essentially an hour between transitions.
And all that can be done by Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have that.
6:15 is going to be on the agenda, John?
I'm sorry?
June 15th?
Yes.
Is it preferable for any reason if we were to have one company that could provide multiple services? Or do we prefer individual companies for each aspect?
In my experience, it doesn't make a difference either way.
Okay.
If there's one that's handling more than one discipline, or you have different ones for different disciplines, you're still going to get the same quality of responses and guidance.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So we are set then. We've got Alana. So just to kind of summarize, we're going to clean up the list to the ones that have responded. Tomorrow we will send out information. We will invite anybody else that still needs to get their information in by end of business on Friday. Then all that information will be disseminated to us over the weekend. We'll all have the information. Please read it, and then we will extend invitations unless there's some glaring reason why we should not, for them to give us a 5-minute presentation on at the next meeting in an executive session.
Is that going to be at like 6 or is that going to be at 7?
It has to occur during a meeting. So
Okay.
if you wanted it to occur at 6, you'd have to change the time of your regular meeting
Gotcha.
to 6 and then have the executive session, or you could have your meeting and then have the executive session at the end or in the middle. It's up to you.
Gotcha. It might be a good idea to do it at the end then, because then if it starts at 7, you go into an executive session for an hour. That's also supposed to be the meeting that's supposed to be our first meeting where the Zoom information is public. So if it goes into executive session, then how does that work?
But the executive session just has to wait until you're ready for the executive session, and the consultants just have to wait.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it. We can do a breakout room, which is where the members can kind of leave this space. So there will technically be 2 Zoom windows happening, but like the public and the applicants will be in one, and then the planning board members and the consultants will be in another. I've never done that, but I know and I actually won't be here for that meeting, but I know that that's a way that can be done.
All right, we'll figure that out between now and the 15th.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because that gets back to the whole changing the meeting time to 6 p.m. and how we do that. So, yeah, and that we haven't crossed that bridge yet. All right, so that gives us an idea of what we're going to do related to the consultants. Let's see here.
Just one more note on my memo to the planning board. The last issue for this application dealt with the need for an additional proxy statement, and the applicant has submitted that proxy statement.
Okay. Yeah, identifying Pissarro Associates. Okay, got that. And we resolved the records identifying Beautiful Monster and Andrews Wave as the owners of both lots.
John, it's Mike Moriello. I have to record the deed. I do have a letter to that effect that'll go to you. I should have it done. I should have it over to the clerk's office tomorrow. However, it is taking a very long time to get anything turned around because you can't go into the clerk's office in person, which, so it makes it difficult. You got to drop it in a box and then they call you when it's ready. You have to leave them a check that's signed. They got to fill it in. There's a whole process to it. But I should, once I get it turned around, I will give the board and Rick proof of by recording page. So you have the live room page.
Okay. All right, so with that in mind, we've reviewed and discussed proposals received we decided that how we're going to handle that. We have decided that we do need to have an environmental engineer and a landscape engineer. We're going to reach out to those, requesting all the information to be sent to us, placed in spreadsheets. We're going to clean that up, make the invitations. We have discussed the revised DEIS scope that we're anticipating will be done soon. And then he's working on the property records, and the proxy statements are done for now. So really that's about as far as we can go at this time. Zach, there you go, thank you. That's about as far as we can go at this time. Any other questions or comments from any of the board members related to this application? Okay.
John, it's Mike. On the meeting for tomorrow, I think the easiest place for everyone to park is going to be, if everyone knows where Bella Terra Apartments is, go 1 mile from Main Street, just go past Bella Terra. And on your left, you'll see a 2.5-story house that has a semicircular driveway. Park right there in that driveway or right on the lawn, and then we can walk right across 32 to the property. That way we'll be able to walk all the way down from the top. I think that's probably the easiest place to park to get people in and out of, and it's not super wet or anything like that. So I think that'll be the best place. It's just past Bella Terra. If you were going to the south on the left, it's the first White House.
Okay.
And with all site visits, I suggest strongly from experience that you wear appropriate boots and clothing.
I shouldn't wear my stilettos, Rick. Is that what you're saying?
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, Mike, thank you very much. We appreciate you and Tom taking the time to visit with us this evening. We got a plan for what we need to accomplish before our next meeting.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk.
Okay. So that brings us then to PB 2007, Plattekill and Hasbrook Avenue. The applicant is Lalo Group Incorporated. Zoning district is B2. This is the pit area. We're going to get a quick summary by our attorney on what needs to be, or on what's going on. Then we have a list of next steps, including assuming lead agency. There's some other clarifications that we'll have to go through. And then we'll have some issues that we need to review briefly. And then there will be, of course, an action list that will be presented to the applicant as well. So with that in mind, Rick, do you want to just go ahead and do a quick summary on this for us, please?
Sure. It's an application for proposed mixed-use commercial development consisting of 3 buildings. 1, a 50-room hotel with amenities, including a pool and outdoor patio. 2, a banquet hall, cafe, restaurant, and spa. And 3, retail, first floor, and professional offices on the 2nd and 3rd floors of that 3rd building. Each building will be 3 stories in height. There will be underground parking. Property consists of 2.44 acres. Located at the corner of Hasbrook Avenue and Elting, is adjacent to the village municipal offices. The property is located in the B2 Core Business District. And the applicant is requesting site plan approval and a special use permit for the hotel. The applicant has submitted a full EAF Part 1. And we were waiting for some additional information before finalizing and trying to assume lead agency. It declared its intent on lead agency on April 20th. The notice of intent to be lead agency was circulated on April 23rd. So you have the ability this evening to assume lead agency. The next step, seeker step after assuming lead agency, is to make a determination of significance. And as I noted in my memo to the board, which was also copied to the applicant's attorney, my suggestion, it's your decision, but my suggestion is that you don't take any further steps other than assuming lead agency until the applicant submits a site plan and the other information that's requested here. As you know, your planning board engineer, Dennis Larios, has drafted a Part 2 to the full environmental assessment form, and that's ready to be reviewed whenever the planning board deems that it wants to review that as a precursor to making that determination of significance. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. All right. So as he said, that what we want to do tonight is assume the lead agency. I think that he's correct in taking no further steps until we have the site plan and other issues resolved and submitted to us. I think that we should receive the EAF Part 2 from Dennis, and then we can, once they have submitted their Part 1 and we've accepted it and gone through it, then we can review the Part 2.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, there were, in addition to the site plan, there were basically 4 other issues that I think the planning board should want before going further than assuming lead agency. One is clarification of various FEAF Part 1s. I believe that might have been submitted today, but I have not had a chance to look at that. Then also to submit information on the stream between the proposed project and the park, as brought up by Rachel at the prior meeting. Next is submit a narrative addressing each of the special use permit requirements for the hotel special use permit, and submit elevation drawings as requested by Corey in his March 22nd memo.
Okay. Very good. So really, we're going to just assume the lead agency tonight, folks, and we're going to wait to get the rest of that stuff. Just briefly from the applicant, you are aware of those things that have been requested?
Yes, thank you very much. We reviewed the letter and, we're excited to proceed. I would just like some clarification from the board, because I certainly understand, wanting the updated information on the EAF, and we have submitted that. But some of these other issues, when you talk about submitting a site plan, we have a plan here, and, we've heard from the village and from some of the residents about, potential options in looking at these issues. And that's why we have, volunteered, and, I think you may have been there anyway, that on this borderline project to just go ahead and do an environmental impact statement, because we believe that process can help work through some of these issues and work through some of the options that we heard, like we've been approached. Some to maybe, instead of doing retail on the first floor and 2 stories of office, to potentially put some residential in that building. All of which we're willing to consider, but all of it which will affect and impact the final design as we work through it. So to, do all this work up front on a plan that ultimately may be modified. We want to find that sweet spot to get you enough information to be able to analyze the options and analyze the environmental impact statements without potentially doing right up front before we get into the statement and the issues, too much SWIP work. We would identify all of those issues as something to be studied in the environmental impact statement, and all that information would be to you, but it's just, when do you want it and how do we time it? Like I said, we certainly understand that you need some more information to maybe make for Corey to make his decision on the height and to provide the elevations on that. But we don't want to get into too much site-specific design when that may well change by virtue of the process.
Well, before we can change anything in the process, we have to have something concrete to go off of,
Right.
rather than to speculate on what might possibly be. So and our attorney's going to address this, but I think that we need a plan that we can review. Then we can look at the changes that we would make. Right now, we don't have anything other than a concept plan really to judge anything by. And so we need something that's concrete so that Corey can look at it and make his determinations, so that our attorney can then make some determinations. And then we will have something that's objective and factual upon which we can make some of our discussions. Rick, do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, what we're asking for is what's required by the code for any site plan, and that is to include the elements that are listed. It's I'm trying to look at it now, but it's 212-23A1. And there's 1A through A1A through P, right? And some of this information you clearly have on there as well already. But what we want you to do is to go ahead and, to the best of your abilities at this time, to identify what is requested under the code for proceeding for a site plan approval. And so things may change. But as John said, in the environmental impact statement, you could be providing several alternatives to whatever site plan that you provide. And that doesn't invalidate the site plan at all. But I think that the board needs enough information so that it can help with determining the scope of any environmental impact statement, and having a full site plan, I think, will do that.
Okay. Well, we can, well, I don't want to speak for Justin, but we can provide that. I just wanted to, put up front that the level of detail, and, we would like to potentially maybe be able to converse with your engineering consultants and potentially your attorney, just to go through to make sure you have enough to make informed decisions on the scope and on the EIS, because we want that, to be complete and address the issues, while not, designing something that providing us enough flexibility in design as we go through. Now,
You always have,
okay.
John, you're always going to have the flexibility to change the plan with or without going through an environmental impact statement. So what this is saying is just the code requires a baseline for what's required in the site plan, and that's what we're asking for. Everybody understands that may change based upon comments, based upon mitigation that may be needed. I don't think it's very difficult to satisfy the site plan elements. But Mr. Chairman and the planning board, what John has also asked just now is whether or not he and his team can contact Dennis and myself outside of the planning board meeting to gauge whether or not, in our opinions, there's enough information being provided so that when it gets submitted to the planning board, that at least Dennis and I will have made a decision as to whether or not it's enough. And always with the understanding that that's just to satisfy us, so that the applicant isn't surprised when they submit it and then Dennis or I say, no, that's not enough. certainly the only real decision maker in this is the planning board itself when it receives it. But I know that John and his team and Dennis and I understand that.
I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to contact you and get that information so that we can move forward and have what we need in order to begin the process of analyzing.
Thank you. And then the only other issue I would just like to raise for the board, and Justin is here for any questions, is, you know, on this issue, I happen to be monitoring the village board meeting on another issue, and hopefully it's one of your zone changes you're looking at. And I heard discussion on ordering a title policy to determine, you know, the issue of parking on this site, but the survey that we have with the concept plan, and Justin, please jump in if I'm wrong, does show the easement area and does show the spaces that the village has maintained within those lots. And, you know, we are available. I mean, we have, there was an authorization to do title work there. We have title work that Luis would be willing to share with the village. I mean, this isn't something we're looking to hide. We certainly would work through that to make, you know, so the village can maintain and not lose any spaces that it does maintain within the area. So
anything related to title work is going to have to be between you and the village attorney, Will Frank.
Okay.
We do have a correspondence from Will Frank to you.
Yes.
Regarding the pit area, parking spaces, any plan submitted as accounting for the village's right is reserved in the 1988 deed conveying a paper road to the property to have at least existing number of public parking spaces in the subject area to be administered by the village. But again, anything related to title, that's going to have to be determined between you and Will Frank, and then we'll act based upon the information we get from them.
And just so you know, I had the same conversation with Will, you know, so we're not, I just wanted it to know, because I was just a little surprised at the village board. You know, no one had picked up the phone and called us, because we certainly would have been happy to provide, and will, you know, provide that information to the planning board and the village board to work through this.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true, but again, that is between you and the village board.
Mr. Chairman, is that something you'd like me to bring up the site plan just to show that area, or not at this time?
I think actually it would be helpful for the planning board members to at least see that general area where those parking spaces are at issue.
Sure. Can everyone see my screen?
No.
No, okay. Let's see. Did that work?
We can see it now.
Okay, great. So this is the plan that has been provided to the board. Platico Avenue is over on the right-hand side here, and this is your one-way in to the village parking area on the back side of the town hall there. This heavy bold line is what's been identified as our parcel boundary or our property line, and you can see as you're coming up, this is an existing curb line going into the parking of the village, and you can see where it comes across that property line, and this is the guide rail. So you can follow this guide rail through over to here, which you know, it narrows down to a triangular area of the spaces on the project site itself. Our access right now is shown also coming off of Platico, and you can see where we don't really encroach into those spaces. We still have to review grading and things of that nature on how that would work, but again, we have to meet grade at Platico, so it's going to be very close to existing grades in that adjacent parking as well. But that's the area that we're we were speaking of.
Everybody clear on that, where they're talking about what this information is about? And does everyone have information regarding to what he's talking about? Does that come to you?
Wait. So what he's saying that those parking spaces are actually, the village parking spaces are actually on their property, but they're not going to take them away. They're going to just, because that's kind of where the cliff is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it says Will Frank wrote to the applicant's attorney that the village currently has parking spaces in that area, and plans submitted must account for the village's right reserved by a paper road on the property and a deed to have at least the existing number of parking spaces available in the subject area to be administered by the village. And that's what he's showing us there. Okay, so we have covered then what needs to be provided by the applicant.
John, if I could just make one request.
Sure.
I think we're going to be getting a lot of public comments on this very shortly, and there was a whole bunch of comments on Facebook recently, and so I think it would be helpful for the planning board. I know that this plan was arrived at through consultations with the public and meetings a number of years ago, before any of us were on the planning board. So it would be helpful, I think, if we could see the records of those meetings as well, and just learn about how any decisions were arrived at, if you have those.
You know, it might be good to get a summary of that. I can tell you from being on the board at that time that we received some information from them. They modified it. It was going to be a much larger project at one point, a much taller project as well, and that they have scaled back the project considerably. But I think having maybe a summary of that might be a good way to do that. And I don't know who would handle that summary. I don't know whether Alana, you would, or Rick, whether your office could provide that summary for us. But I think that might be helpful, and it might give you some background information on what has occurred prior to this iteration of the project. Because the pit has a long and somewhat illustrious history of different projects being advanced for that area that have not gone forward after a point. So I think that having a history of this specific project as it was first introduced to us, Luis, how long ago was that? 4 years ago?
To mute yourself, please.
Yeah,
I
I
wasn't
don't.
quite useful.
Yeah.
I'm happy to also go through and look back at the minutes and try to organize something as a document for us.
Yeah, and if Alana, or I don't know who the person was just speaking, but Raquel, if either of them, they can coordinate with us, because we may have some materials from some of the public sessions we had, outside the planning board, public informational meetings. There were at least one of them, and I think more than one, that we received input. I don't know if we have formal minutes, but there may be some notes or, something we can present. And then the other thing I would just add to the board, that is, because of the history, that's part of the reason we decided to go to an EIS because it does incorporate in the process public comments on the scope right from the beginning of the process. It incorporates public input on this, and it creates a written record that we compile. And one of the issues we can include on the scope is to provide a history of not just this project, but the development options or scenarios that have gone on the pit just in my participation in New Paltz over the years, and the difficulties, in developing this parcel, for a reasonable use. That's why it's kind of exciting that, there is a viable project that is permitted by zoning right now that, we think will provide some real benefits, including, as we go forward in this project. I think part of the exciting aspects of it that haven't been fully fleshed out is, SAM 6, and you have a real, often when I go through the area and I see boards with their codes, everybody's, how do we attract high tech? How do we attract high tech? This is an office that will be a high tech software company that will, have its offices, in the village, that will have the types of jobs that all communities around here are looking for in rateable. So I think as we go through this process, I think there is a lot of positive to be said, and there's a lot of issues to be addressed. So I think that's why the environmental impact statement in here is, I think, the proper way to go, to compile all that in one place, so we do have a record of the proceedings.
And there is some stuff, Zach, in the folder I was able to dig up from like 2016. There's just a few things I was able to find. I was able to find like approved planning board minutes from 2015 where some of it was discussed. So I definitely probably don't have everything related, but I was able to dig up some stuff, but it's probably not a complete record. Like, I'm sure the applicant has stuff, and I'm sure Ariana has access to stuff maybe that I haven't seen, but there is some stuff there.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you guys have a charrette back in the day?
Yes, that's what I'm not sure if we have the level of notes that were taken there. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure we can pull something together. And we also appeared at the village board on at least one, but more likely one or two occasions, and at public meetings to present the prior version, which, as the planning board chair said, was much more expansive at that point.
Okay, why don't you run that information through Alana, and Alana, if you can get us a summary before, well, as best you can, as quickly as you can. That way we can have something for everybody to look at and get at least a sense of context for that area, and that will allow us then to kind of at least put it all in terms of what's occurred before and what they're asking for now. So getting back then to what we need to accomplish this evening, among our next steps are that we need to assume lead agency, assuming that none of the involved agencies have objected. Alana or Rick, have you seen any objections by any of the involved agencies?
No.
No.
Okay. So with that in mind, I would like a motion to declare ourselves the lead agency for the PB 2007 Plattekill and Hasbrook Avenue, applicant Lalo Group.
So motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have declared ourselves lead agency. Next steps then that belong to the applicant are to submit the documents that have been requested by our attorney, including the detailed site plan, and then to submit information on the stream between the proposed project and park as requested by board member Rachel. The narrative addressing each of the special use permit requirements and the elevation drawings. And Alana will have a punch list or an action list for you And Rick will review that and add anything that he believes that needs to be included on that. Okay?
Rick, you sent that to John, right, Capella?
That's already been sent to the applicant.
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, just one question. We did get some correspondence back from SHPO. Was there anything else that any other agencies get back to the board that could be
No.
forwarded? That was it?
Yeah, SHPO was the only one that we saw come back.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Hey,
Any other
John,
questions?
John,
from members of the
yeah,
board?
John, it's Dennis. I would like it if we could set up a site plan review like we're doing with New Paul's Gardens. I think it's very important that we, on any projects, particularly large ones like this, that we actually go and walk the site with the
I
people.
think that they have sent and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I did see a document giving permission for people to visit the site. Is that correct?
If we haven't, we will.
Okay.
I thought you did.
I believe that was in the original application form.
Okay.
Yeah, and the applicant has offered to conduct a site visit with the planning board. I think it just has to be scheduled.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Well, we've got one happening tomorrow. Do we want to try to schedule that now?
I don't think there's a rush to do it right now. I think you can probably do it at your next meeting, that this is on the agenda.
Okay, let's do that then. We'll address that at the next meeting. Okay. All right. With that in mind, I don't think there's anything else that we need from you right now. Thank you all for coming here and providing information, sharing with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
We'll see you at our next meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Night all.
So the last thing that we need to do is we need to get a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you for a productive meeting. I do appreciate your time and attention and efforts, and there'll be lots of stuff to read. Our next meeting will be even more fun-filled and packed. So thank you all very
See you
much.
guys tomorrow.
Have a good-
Bye.
yeah,